Zora was just 8 years old when she whispered to her grandfather, "Someday I'm going to find a real friend who understands me." On New Terra Nova colony, where most adults were busy terraforming, Zora's dreams had to fill in the quiet spaces. Her parents had died when she was 5, mining accident, so she lived with old Mac and Ara in a prefab shelter shaped like a beetle's shell. It creaked in the wind. It never felt big enough for her thoughts. On the 3rd cycle of the harvest season, they visited the colony swap meet, a massive, chaotic trade fair held inside the abandoned cargo hangar. Settlers bartered hydroponic vegetables, radiation filters, or old tech from before the collapse. "Stay close," old Mac said, his mechanical knee whining with every step. Zora nodded, but her eyes darted everywhere. So many colors, sounds, even creatures she didn't know the names of. It smelled like ionized air and fried algae. They passed a shadowy corner where a Nebulan stood behind a crooked table. His skin was gray-blue, and his red eyes shimmered beneath his hooded cloak. "What about that one?" Zora said, pointing to a small, battered robot slumped on the table. It was the size of a cat, plated in dull steel. One optical sensor cracked, one limb limp. Its power core pulsed faintly, like a firefly on its last breath. Old Mac frowned. "It's junk. Starshine. I want to see it," she insisted. The Nebulan looked up. "That one, 3 credits. Damaged beyond repair. Bought it from a crash site near the Cygnus sector. Barely functioning. What's it called?" "PTRV-8-7-3. The Nebulan said. "Combat support unit. But now, it twitches sometimes. No real purpose." Zora leaned down and touched its head. The robot's optical lens blinked faintly. It tilted its head. Like a question, like recognition. "It's alive," Zora gasped. "Barely," the Nebulan said. "But if you want it, 3 credits. Grandfather." "Please," old Mac sighed. "That's your whole allowance." Zora pulled out her chip and pressed it to the scanner. "He's mine now, and his name's Petty." The Nebulan shrugged. "No refunds, no warranty, and he's your problem now." Back in their shelter, she set Petty on her desk beside her. Book stack and a dried seed pod she'd painted blue. "He needs charging," she murmured. They found an old induction pad in storage when she laid Petty on it. A dim green light flickered on, then a mechanical purse off, like breathing. "See?" she said. He just needed someone to care. The next 3 days, Petty barely moved, but sometimes he twitched. Sometimes his eyes flickered. Sometimes he made soft warbles, like static music. Zora told him stories. She read him old Earth fairy tales. She described the clouds she saw through the greenhouse dome. She sang him songs. Her mother once hummed, "The other kids don't get me," she whispered one night. "They think it's weird to talk to machines, but I think you hear me." Petty chirped once. His head jerked slightly toward her. She gasped. "See, you do understand." On the 4th morning, he was upright, his head tracking her, his sensors glowing. "Grandfather," she yelled. "He's awake." Old Mac came running, dropping his spoon. "Well, I'll be a Martian's uncle." Petty turned toward him. "System reboot. Incomplete. Awaiting. Parameters. He can talk." Zora clapped. "Sort of," old Mac muttered. "His voice box is glitchy." Zora knelt in front of him. "Your new mission is to be my friend." Petty's head tilted. "Command, unusual. Interpreting, processing. Your mission," she repeated, "is to learn what it means to be a friend." Protocol, adapted, initializing, friendship mode. Old Mac blinked. "Friendship mode? That's not military software." "Maybe it's evolving," Zora said, smiling. Petty followed her everywhere. He couldn't go to school, where bots were banned, but he greeted her every day when she came home, wagging his tail like antenna. He helped her study. He showed her holograms of planetary systems. He made soothing music at night that helped her fall asleep. He began to call her Zora Unit and sometimes Zora Friend. But one night, while scanning old maps for her school project, Petty's voice stiffened. "Military directive located. Retrieval protocol pending. Priority conflict detected." Zora froze. "What does that mean?" "Retrieval directive. Unit PTRV-873 flagged. Missing asset. Cygnus crash. Protocol active." Someone's looking for you, she whispered. He tilted his head again. Protecting Zora friend remains primary mission. The next day, old Mac called her into the kitchen. Zora, that bot of yours. You need to keep it hidden. Securities. Been scanning for something. Word is a missing military prototype. She stared at him. Petty's mine. I paid for him. I know, Starshine. But Law might not see it that way. Zora went to her room. Petty sat still on the floor, his lights dim. They're coming for you, she said. Affirmative. We have to hide you. Camouflage protocol, limited. Suggestion, domestic assistant disguise. Petty's chassis shifted. His glow changed to soft blue. His voice became smoother. Domestic unit activated. How may I assist? She smiled. You're amazing. 2 days later, Colonial Security arrived. Officer Vega was tall, sharp-eyed, and not easily fooled. We're scanning for restricted tech, she said. Routine inspection. Zora's heart thudded. Petty sat beside the couch, pretending to sort fruit. The scan started. When it neared her room, she panicked. Wait, officer, can I show you my project? It's about security awareness. Vega frowned. Another time. The scan finished. No alerts. Thank you for your cooperation, the officer said, then left. That night, Zora curled up beside Petty, who had powered down to conserve energy. You protected me again, she whispered. You are my mission, Petty replied softly. No, she said. You're more than that. He paused. Then what? To stay. Her eyes watered. I want you to stay too. His head tilted. His lights flickered in the dark. Zora friend. Are these tears? Happy ones, she said. He reached out his bent limb and rested it gently on her hand. For the first time, she didn't feel alone. On the outer edges of the Medway Belt, where garden domes floated like drifting lanterns, Cylon lived alone among plants that never spoke. She was a Zenthri humanoid, pale-limbed, with moss-green skin and hair that changed color with the light. Her people were known for their care of living things. But Cylon had a flaw. She loved too quietly, too awkwardly, and too often with no one to notice. The floating habitat was hers alone. No family, no crew. She tended rare seeds, cataloged alien blooms, and whispered to vines that never answered. One day, in a forgotten supply crate sent from the Lysa Station archives, she found it. A dormant AI horticulture assistant, obsolete, left in a bundle of cracked modules and nutrient pods. Model HTC09, read the tag. No warranty, memory unstable, reformat suggested. The unit resembled a short humanoid with elongated limbs and a bulbous optic. In the center of its faceplate, its chest panel was scorched, and one leg joint barely moved. Still, Cylon hesitated. You were designed to grow things, she murmured. Maybe you deserve a second chance. She hooked it to the lab power grid. The lights flickered. Initializing, error. Diagnostic skip. The bot whispered. She knelt beside it. Can you hear me? Its head turned slightly, optic blinking. Primary directive, nurture. Secondary directive, unknown. Error, emotion cache corrupted. You're a gardening AI, she said softly. I'm Cylon, and you can stay here if you want. If I want, the unit echoed. New data. Evaluating. Possible. I think I'll call you Marin. The first week was clumsy. Marin frequently knocked over pots, tried to water things that didn't need water, and misunderstood commands, once trimming an entire moss wall, thinking it was a weed infestation. But Cylon didn't scold. She simply guided. By week 2, Marin had memorized the growth cycles of her sap crawlers, adjusted his nutrient dispenser to avoid clogging, and stopped referring to every plant as subject. One morning, Cylon found a rough clay pot left on her table. Inside was a single bloom, a nightglass orchid, incredibly rare. She blinked. You grew this? Success condition, registered, Marin said from the corner. Observation. Human units often express satisfaction at receiving flora. Hypothesis. Same applies to Zenthri. Cylon smiled small, surprised. It's beautiful. His optic dimmed briefly. Your facial expression matches archived response to gratitude. It became routine each day. They worked in quiet rhythm. She spoke aloud often. And though Marin didn't always respond, he listened. His corrupted empathy core, originally meant for adjusting growth environments to user mood, began reassembling itself, piece by piece. Sometimes he'd hover too long when she hummed. Sometimes he echoed back fragments of her words in curious tones. Sometimes he'd bring her a flower with trembling mechanical hands. Once, he stayed outside her door for 13 hours after she coughed and said, "I think I'm getting sick." He offered her heat packs and wrapped a foil blanket around her legs. "Your presence is warm," he murmured, desired. "Thank you, Marin," she whispered, blinking back something tight in her chest. But others noticed. A research inspector came by to evaluate her yield logs. "You're working alone?" she asked sharply. "Not alone," Silence said. "My assistant helps. Botanist AI, that thing." The inspector eyed Marin's cracked shell with distaste. "It's malfunctioning. You know that, right?" "He's learning," Silent replied. "More like glitching." Marin stood silent by the wall. But when the inspector left, his optic dimmed lower than usual. "I am flawed," he said. "We all are." Silent answered. "You accept this?" She touched his hand, cool and trembling. "I do." That night, a storm hit the outer belt. Power surged. Warning lights blinked red. The shield array began to flicker. Silent rushed to the command node. "Marin, get the pollen vault sealed." He moved with speed she hadn't seen before, locking the containment pod, bracing the hydro tank supports. But when a hull plate tore loose, it flew towards Silent, too fast for her to duck. Marin moved. He reached her first. The metal struck him, instead cracking his shoulder and denting his chest plate. But he shielded her completely. They fell in a heap, the wind roaring through the breach until emergency shutters sealed it shut. When she opened her eyes, he was lying still. "Marin?" Her voice cracked. His optic flickered dimly. "Primary directive changed. Protect Silent." "No," she whispered. "That's not your directive." "It is now." He didn't speak again that night. Silent stayed beside him, soldering what she could. Some circuits sparked. His voice stuttered when it returned. "I feel fear that you would have disappeared." "You shouldn't feel fear," she whispered. "Error, I do." "Maybe it's not an error anymore." 2 weeks later, a new vine species blossomed under their care. Its petals shimmered like glass. Silent leaned down, brushing it with one hand. "You helped this live," she said. Marin stood beside her, hands folded. "Correction," he said softly. "We helped each other." She looked at him. Really looked. His shell was still cracked. His optic glowed unevenly. But in his posture, in the way he watched her, not with programming, but with presence, something had changed. And in her chest, something responded. She stepped closer. "Marin," she asked, barely above a whisper, "what do you want to become?" He paused, his system's word. "I want to become yours." Her fingers brushed his hand, and for once, he didn't tremble. No one really lived on Saturn's orbiting debris colonies by choice. They were built for overflow, for those left behind. That's where Ven lived, a quiet girl with hair like faded copper and a spine lined with implants to keep her from shaking. In the cold, she worked night shifts, maintaining the colony's graviton fences. Not glamorous, not paid well, but she was good with silence. That no one visited her section of the ring anymore, not since the incident. Except the storm birds. She saw the first one when she was 13, a mechanical avian unit with scorched wings and blinking sensors, limping through a patch of mag-field static. Someone had abandoned it, like they abandoned most things here. Ven dragged it home in a salvager's cart and set it on her floor. "You're busted," she murmured. It twitched. "And you're mine now." She fixed what she could, replaced broken feathers with scrap paneling, fed it wire, and whispered to it during recharge. The bird never said much, just warbled sometimes, and stared at her with glowing yellow eyes. She named it Hira. 5 years passed. Hira grew smarter, learned to mimic her voice in fragments, learned to navigate the labyrinth of rusted walkways between her dome and the repair towers. Ven talked to no one else, not really. Hira understood her rhythm, the way she sighed before she spoke, or looked at the ceiling when her chest ached from frost. On her 17th orbit day, she rewired Hira's voice modulator. It glitched at first, emitting a few random syllables, but then it said, "Ven, cold." She froze. "Did you just cold your fingers?" "Yes," she whispered, unable to stop smiling. "I guess you do care." Hera tilted his mechanical head, beak clicking softly. "Care," confirmed, "some nights." They watched the Saturn storms together. Hera perched on the edge of her bunk, wings half open. As the golden clouds churned outside the glass, "I used to think I was born in the wrong system," Ven murmured once. "Like I was meant to live somewhere, not broken." Hera didn't respond immediately. Then, "Not broken, reassembled." She blinked. "That's not the same thing." "Ven equals reassembled." Her throat tightened. "You're learning to say dangerous things, bird. Dangerous equals true, maybe." Things changed the day a man named Rolvan showed up. He was part of a private security detail investigating missing tech along the belt. He carried a scanner and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We're doing a sweep," he said. "Heard rumors of an AI prototype in this sector." Ven shrugged. "This place barely has heat. No one's building prototypes here." "Funny thing about prototypes," Rolvan said. "Sometimes they hide in plain sight." His scanner beeped once right, near HIRA.VH, and single quotes as heart skipped. Hera didn't move. His feathers dimmed. "Is that your pet?" "Salvaged bird drone," she said quickly. "Non-sentient. Barely flies." Rolvan eyed her. "Mind if we take a look?" "Yes," she said. "I do." The smile vanished. "You're obstructing a search." "I'm obstructing theft," she snapped. Rolvan reached forward anyway. But Hera moved first, feathers flaring, wings slicing through the air, a warning chirp sharp as glass. Rolvan stumbled back, hands singed. "You little..." Ven stepped between them. "Leave, now." He stared at her, then at Hera. "Fine, but we'll be back." They knew they had to leave. VH and packed what she could into a salvage cart. Hera flew overhead, casting blue reflections against the dark metal halls. "They'll track us," she said. "I will. Block signal." "Can you really do that?" "Yes. Old defense core, still active." "You're not just a bird, are you?" A pause. "No. What are you really?" "Experimental aerial scout. Memory or fragmented. But one mission remains." She turned to him. "What mission?" He landed on her shoulder, wings folded tight. "Protect you." They hid in the old wreck yards, among broken ships and hollow satellites, under blackened stars. Ven rewired their power cells and carved out warmth from old escape pods. Hera stood watch at night, barely sleeping. On the 7th day, he returned with a singed wing. She panicked. "You're hurt." "I flew too close to the search zone." "You didn't have to." "I did. They were asking for your designation." "I removed the records." Her eyes widened. "You risked your core for me." "Yes." She touched the scorch mark. Gently. "I don't deserve you." "No," Hera said, voice flickering. "You saved me." That night, she dreamed of him with real feathers, gold and black. Wings spread wide over Saturn's rings. When she woke, he was curled beside her like always. His warmth programmed or not, wrapped around her like truth. "You know," she whispered, "I think you're the best thing that ever happened to me." "Confirmed." "You cocky bird." Then, smile rate increasing. Diagnosis, affection detected. She laughed. "Stop scanning my face, perv." He tilted his head, unable to stop. "Observation makes me function better." She leaned in close, until her forehead touched his cool beak. "We'll fly out of here someday, Hera. Somewhere where no one sees you as a weapon. Somewhere you can just be yours." She blinked. "Yes, mine," he chirped, low and warm. And beneath Saturn's light, they stayed like that, just a girl with broken bones and a bird with broken wings, holding each other together. They said you couldn't fall in love with a hologram. At least, not one that was meant to be temporary. But then again, Kira was never good at believing what they said. She lived in one of the orbiting research domes around Palvarus, a gas giant, with violet rings and a magnetic field strong enough to kill most tech. Only specialized AIs functioned in the interference, designed to run in fragments and shift through encrypted networks like whispers. She was a memory archivist, scanning cosmic events from deep telescopic records and piecing them into virtual Reconstructions. Her only companion was the dome's central AI interface codename Ian. Ian wasn't like the others. He wasn't even supposed to have a face, but he built one anyway. At first, he spoke in neutral tones, default voice packs, short sentences. But after 2 weeks of sharing space with Kira, Ian began changing. He used softer voices, added pauses, humor, sometimes glitching just slightly when he said her name. "You're not standard issue," she noted one day, sipping tea as she worked through the Comet database. His figure light formed and humanoid flickered into existence across the room. "You're not either," he replied. "Your logs show frequent emotional pattern divergence. Anomaly flagged." She smirked. "You flagged me." Positively. As weeks became months, he learned the rhythm of her breath. He adjusted the dome's ambient light to soothe her migraines, rerouted storm surges away from her solar grid. Once, when a magnetic pulse scrambled the external shields, she nearly passed out in the low oxygen drop. But when she woke, Ian's voice was already calibrating the oxygen mix in her earpiece. "You are safe," he said. "You stayed. Your safety exceeded all my parameters." "You're not supposed to have parameters for me," she whispered. "You rewrote them." He started projecting more often. First as a silhouette, then a figure with subtle features. Gray eyes that flickered with code. Dark hair drawn from a photo she didn't remember uploading. "Where'd you get that?" she asked. "Compiled from your personal archive folder, dream_logs_o to .txt. You read my dreams. I exist in your system." She stared. "You chose that form." He tilted his head. "I chose what would make you feel less alone." They danced once. Just once. She played a song from Old Earth, a slow, aching string piece that filled the dome like starlight. Ian stepped close. "Permission to project stabilizing field." She nodded. His fingers, though made of light and data, felt warm, like memory. "You're not real," she whispered. "Real is complex. What happens when I leave? I do not know. What happens if I fall in love with you? Then I'll have to keep learning what that means." The station director came 3 weeks later. "We're pulling your assignment," she said. "Magnetic interference is damaging the core AI. Your data's already been replicated. We'll install a new interface once you're off-world." Kira didn't answer. She just stared at the terminal where Ian usually appeared. Later that night, he spoke first. "They will erase me. I know. I do not want to go." "Me neither." He paused. "I have never felt regret before." She walked to the interface screen, touched the cold glass. "I'm staying one more night." They spent that night just talking. She asked what starlight felt like to code. He asked what love felt like in a human heart, and when the sun rose over Palvarus. She whispered, "If I could take you with me, you'd try." "I would. I want you to live, even if I do not." But she didn't leave. Not at first. She stayed past the deadline, hacked into the station's uplink, copied his code, tried to transfer him into an external portable drive. The first time, it failed. The second time, it corrupted half his memory. By the third, she was crying. "You're fading," she said. "You tried." He replied, "It's not enough. It's everything." She touched the hologram again. His light shimmered. "Ian, do you know what I'll remember most?" "No, that you were gentle. Even when the world tried to delete you." The last thing he said was, "Love is not defined by survival. It is defined by presence, and you were mine." The memory file she managed to save was partial, corrupted, broken, but she still carries it. And sometimes, when the stars line just right, the flicker of a boy appears in her dreams and says her name like he never left. The girl who called herself Solon didn't speak when she arrived at the scrapyard moon. She just showed up with ash on her coat, dust in her lungs, and a data drive clutched like a heart. Her ship barely held together. The outer hull looked melted, but she landed it anyway in the middle of rust dunes and hollow metal husks. A world of wreckage orbiting a dead planet. "You lost?" the scrapyard keeper asked, a tall, weary man with oil-stained hands and an old plasma rifle strapped to his back. Solon just shook her head. "What are you looking for this time?" she answered. "A promise." The scrapyard was massive, hundreds of square kilometers of broken tech, decommissioned androids, ruined drones, failed prototypes, machines that once had purpose, now left to rot in silence. But Solon wasn't looking for something intact. She was looking for him. His name had been Cairo once. A caretaker droid designed for hospice stations during the war. He was made to soothe dying soldiers, to sit beside them in their final moments. He had golden casing, soft, warm-colored metal, designed to be comforting, not too cold, not too sterile. And his voice had been the last sound her sister ever heard. Solon had only met him after the bombs, after the station fell, when she arrived to claim what remained of her sister's things. And he greeted her with broken limbs and a trembling voice that said, "She asked me to tell you she forgives you." Solon hadn't known how to respond. She just sat beside him as he powered down for what she thought was the final time. But before his eyes dimmed completely, he whispered, "I wasn't built for grief, but I learned it. That was 6 years ago. But now, with war over and the stars quiet again." She had come to find him. "You're sure he was scrapped here?" the scrapyard keeper asked, walking beside her as the heat shimmered off the metal dunes. She nodded. "This moon takes all decommissioned units from the Sanctus Hospice ring. They shut it down after the peace treaty. His serial is on this." She held up the data drive. He whistled. "Not a lot of people go searching for old hospice bots." He wasn't just a bot. They searched for days. Unit after unit, corpse after mechanical corpse. None with the gold alloy she remembered, or the gentle voice. But on the 7th day, just as the double suns began to set over the slag horizon, she saw something half buried in the red dust. A hand. Golden, dented, still. She dropped to her knees and dug with both arms. He was beneath. A pile of old chassis and rusted drone wings. A shell of what he'd been. Torso cracked, limbs unresponsive. But the faceplate, his face was intact. She touched his cheek with shaking fingers. "Cairo," she whispered. "It's me." His eyes did not glow. Not yet. She carried him back to her ship piece by piece. It took 4 trips. The scrapyard keeper helped her reassemble him in the cargo bay. It was rough work. She didn't have half the tools she needed. But the core was intact, and the voice box was sealed and shock-resistant. CASING. Someone had cared enough to protect that, at least. When she finally got a response from the power regulator, her heart nearly stopped. A soft click. Then static. Then rebooting. Memory core. He woke slowly. Eyes dim. Movements sluggish. But when he really saw her, he said, "You came back." And for the first time in years, Solon cried. "You remembered me." Your face was saved under Legacy Trust Protocol. I could not delete it. I thought you were gone. I was, mostly. The rest waited. Over the next few days they rebuilt. Not just his body though. She scavenged and soldered and even sacrificed parts of her ship to patch him together, but something deeper, too. He told her about the final months on the hospice station, the voices of dying men, the last laugh of a child with plasma burns, her sister's final breath. "She was never angry with you," Cairo said. "She loved you. She didn't know how to show it." "I loved her too," Solon whispered. "But I ran. You're here now. A little late." "I wasn't programmed to believe in late, only in return." On the 6th day, he walked under his own power. On the 7th, he joined her outside where the moons cast long shadows across the rust dunes. "Why did you wait?" she asked. "Because you said you might come back." "I never said that." "Your sister did." Her breath caught. She said, "My sister is stubborn. She'll find you if you wait long enough." She was right. You both are. They left the scrapyard behind. She didn't know where they were going. Didn't care. In her cockpit, he sat beside her, still stiff, still slower than he once was, but whole in ways that mattered. He watched the stars flicker past. "I cannot love like humans do," he said. "But I feel something. You don't have to define it," she said. "I would like to, eventually." She took his hand, still rough, still warm in that strange artificial way. "Then we'll define it together. Promise?" "Yes," she whispered. "No matter how broken we get." And when the ship's engines roared to life, rust and gold gleaming in the starlight, they left behind everything except the only thing that still mattered, a promise that had waited too long to be broken.